Hello, guys, and thank you for joining us to our Welcome to Arkansas meeting today. My name is Hani, and I'm the Education USA advisor at the Fulbright Commission in Prague. And today I have got a special guest, Charlie, who is a Fulbright grantee and a current English teaching assistant in the Czech Republic. Charlie, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, she said, my name's Charlie. I'll be taking you guys on a little journey through Arkansas today. Um, all right, so can I go ahead and take it away?
Of course, yeah.
All right, so first of all, first things first, the state is Arkansas. Yes, I know it looks like Arkansas, and there is a state called Kansas
Mhm.
in the US, but this one is not. This one is called Arkansas. Um, I actually don't know the origins of why it's different, but it is. So, with that in mind, let's go to Arkansas. So, I think one of the coolest things about this state is it's a hidden gem. Uh, the state motto is called the natural state. And so, as you can see here, there's some really, really pretty areas super close to cities that are relatively easy to get to, and you feel like you're in a different world.
Mhm.
Some people, US, don't think a lot of Arkansas. Some people think it's mostly just soybean fields and cows and corn. But I'll be the first to tell you there is more, especially with the nature. As you can see here with Hawksbill Crag and the Ouachita Mountains over here on the right, then the Big Bluff Goat Trail, which I've hiked, and Hot Springs, which I've also been to. Um, I guess the only one I have not been to is Hawksbill Crag. That one's a little further away
Mhm.
from where I lived. But as you can see, super pretty areas all around the state. And it's important to know that there are some good cities here too. So where I lived in Arkansas was in Fayetteville.
Mhm.
So that's where the University of Arkansas is. And that city also is famous for the last 2 years hosting the Cyclocross World Cup. It was really cool because this was just across the highway from where I lived. So I could literally walk to it, which was really neat. And
Mhm.
then Bentonville is the headquarters of Walmart. You know, if there's one thing I miss from home, it's Walmart. Uh, you can buy anything you can ever possibly think of there. Like you can buy a new tire for your car, or you can buy groceries, or you can buy clothes or a TV. I mean, guys, come on. You can't live without Walmart. But they also are the self-claimed mountain bike capital of the world.
Mhm.
The Walmart Foundation has put millions and millions of dollars into building all sorts of trails and outdoor spaces for people. And so Bentonville is a really nice city to visit.
Mhm.
Then Little Rock is the capital. It's the largest city in the state. And yeah, I don't know if there's too much to talk about with Little Rock, but I've only been once. But it's a nice small city. And then Eureka Springs, I put as a funky mountain town because it really is funky. Um, there's a sort of, I don't know how to say this quite, but it's almost like not quite hippies, but it is almost like that, where you have people who kind of just live their lives and are very happy. Um, and there's like history to the town too, with the natural springs that are there. But amidst all this funkiness, you're in these beautiful, huge rolling hills. So you have great views all around the city. And then lastly on this list, we have Hot Springs. So it's the state's only national park, and they have natural hot springs. So quite literally, the town is named after the water sources that come from the ground. And it's a pretty little mountain town. So on that first page, you can see here in the corner, you have these big hills surrounding the town.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And there are some places to visit that are not just those cities. Um, we have Crystal Bridges Museum of Art. So again, this is a big Walmart money donation. So, you know, all praise to Walmart here. Um, they built this beautiful, or they helped fund this beautiful museum. As you can see, it's kind of around a lake here, around the forest. And actually, just to the side are lots and lots of mountain bike trails. So this area is super nice in Bentonville. But you also have some other places. So I'm going to sneeze again.
Bless you.
Goodness. Mm. All right. Well, so you have the Clinton National Library. So our former president, Bill Clinton, is from Arkansas. So he has a national library in Little Rock, which is really pretty. Then you have Kohler Mountain Bike Preserve, which is also pretty close to where Crystal Bridges is. This really nice area to go mountain biking, lots of trails. And then, as I mentioned before, Hot Springs does have that national park. They have this really pretty, I guess you can say this is a chapel, outdoor chapel here. People get married here, have ceremonies here, and it's just in the middle of the woods, which is really neat. Then you have Beaver Lake, um, which is also in the northern part of the state. And this one, it's a pretty big lake, and I don't think you can really build too much on the lake as far as houses and big developments go. So it's nice to have like a lake where you go and just see trees and the water. And then lastly, on this slide, we have Mount Magazine State Park. This is more in the center of the state. You can see that big lodge there on the top. And then you got some cliffs and these big hills. And it's a really nice place to go to kind of escape from some of the just normal daily routines. But the other purpose of this talk, of course, is to talk about some universities within Arkansas. So we have Arkansas State in Jonesboro, University of Central Arkansas in Conway, and then where I went to, the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. So a quick overview of Arkansas State here. Let me move this out of the way. As I said, it's in Jonesboro, and so that's in the eastern part of the state. They still have a very nice campus too. It's a smaller school than the University of Arkansas. I know 14,000 probably sounds like a million people, but in the context of American universities, this is not too big. The number here for cost of attendance, 16,000, is on the lower end. Again, I know that looks like a very big number, but it is on the lower end. And these are estimates for housing and meal plans. Of course, everyone has different housing and meal plan situations, or if they decide to live off campus, that's another kind of calculation there. But to get in, you do have to have certain GPA requirements. And of course, coming from a Czech system where GPA is on a different scale, they do have a way to find out your equivalent GPA. And to kind of help with the price there are work study opportunities, but they didn't list too many. And so the other ways to get money would be private sources. So they have a whole list of different places you can find some private funding. And then the most important, of course, to get in would be your language proficiency. Hard word for even me to say. And so I won't go through all of these, but you can definitely take a look at these kind of on your own and go through each step by step, depending on the test you take. You can take the two classic American tests, the SAT down here. Let's get a little laser pointer going. So you can take the SAT or the ACT, but I don't know if those are common to take here. So of course, there's a whole list of different international tests you can take instead.
For Czech students, we usually, or I usually recommend them to decide between the SATs or the ACTs. The SATs are now becoming home edition, so you can actually take
nice.
home starting 2023. So that's amazing. And as for the language proficiency test, you see that they require or they accept TOEFL and IELTS. I would also double check because some schools now started accepting Duolingo language proficiency test. Just make sure because Duolingo is cheaper option for you that many schools accept now. So just double check, whether it might change, in the future.
All right, yeah, it's good to know too. So the next one we'll talk about is the University of Central Arkansas. So quite literally, this is in the center of Arkansas in Conway. And this school is smaller than the first one, Arkansas State. So it's about 8,200 people. But it is a little more expensive, or a lot more expensive actually, which is a little interesting because it's smaller. And kind of skipping to the bottom there, you see that there's lots of scholarship opportunities to help with that cost. So depending on your ACT or SAT scores or your grades coming in, there's even an alumni fund that you can try to apply for. So this one does have a lot more clearly outlined funding sources. But you can see here with the requirements right off their webpage, they definitely want you to compare your grades to the US system, and then, of course, send your transcripts and all your accreditation. Not that the other one doesn't have those, but they didn't specify as much without going into an actual application. And again, looking at those language requirements, you can see that they're not too different actually from the other school, but you just have to double check if you meet these grades or what tests they take. That's probably the most important thing I would assume to look at there.
I feel like, because you mentioned that they want some accredited translations and so forth. Guys, if you find a school that does not require it, don't freak out because most schools actually are fine when you're applying with your translations and they want you to send the accredited and the very formal translations once you are accepted because it costs money to use those WES services to translate your school grades and so forth. So not every school wants you to do that upon applying, but once you are accepted. So double check again if just your translation, maybe with my Education USA stamp on it, that I double check the the original and the translation is fine. And then you would just invest your money in the proper translation once you are accepted.
All right. And then the last university on our list would be the one I went to, which is the University of Arkansas. I will, of course, tout this one and be very proud about it. I loved going here. Originally, I was going to go to the university in my state, Missouri, but I decided that I wanted something different. And if you can just look at this picture in the top corner, you have this very beautiful campus, these rolling hills in the background. And I think the minute I saw that, I knew I picked the right place. The school did grow quite a lot since I first got there. When I first got there, it was about 24,000. And then this year, they had the record attendance of about 29,000. So it's grown a ton since I first got there. But because of that, they have a lot of new programs and amenities to help with all these new students here. Of course, though, that does mean all these nice things have a price tag.
Mhm.
So this one is more expensive and is the most expensive one on the list, but there are tons and tons of scholarship opportunities. I just listed a couple on the bottom there with the
Mhm.
Chancellor Scholarship or the Community or the Silas Hunt and so forth. And there are work study opportunities, of course, and this is determined based on your financial situation. So that has a lot more details to it, of course, with based on your income and things like that. But it is good to look into to know they do exist, especially if you would be a graduate student. So if you're an undergrad, it's harder, a little more difficult to find work study, not impossible though. Um, but with a grad student, then you can have funding from your department because you can teach, or you can have research related funding, or some of the work studies are only for graduate students.
Mhm.
So some of those things are a lot easier to get.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then just a quick note on that requirement section here. They do want both your original transcript and an English translation. And
Mhm.
so and then they also want a confirmation of that too.
Okay. Mhm.
And I did forget to mention for the other schools. So if we go back to the beginning here, each school does have a mascot. That's what's in the bottom corner. So we have the Wolf Pack here of Arkansas State. We have the Bears of Central Arkansas, and
Mhm.
then the Hogs. So we are the mighty Hogs from Arkansas.
It looks
Uh,
really angry though, like,
oh
you're like,
yeah, we are. Well, they call us either the Hogs or the Razorbacks. It's kind of we
uh-huh.
use both names. But yeah, we're no just ordinary farm pig. I'll tell you that.
So what did you
um,
study at the University of Arkansas?
Great question. So we'll just go back to this slide. So I studied exercise science,
Uh-huh.
which is another way to say I studied kinesiology and physiology. So a little bit about how the body works, but
Mhm.
also how it works with exercise. Um, so that was what I decided to do after realizing I did not want to study just a biology.
Mhm.
And again, just like choosing to go to Arkansas, choosing exercise science was, I think, one of the best decisions I made in my life because I love it. I love learning about exercise, how our body handles exercise, and going from the very small parts of your cells and how your cells work and all the chemical processes that go on, and then zooming out to see the big picture of,
Mhm.
okay, we know how the cell works. Now here's how the muscle works, and then here's how it gets activated from the brain. And to me, that was really just fascinating to learn about. So then next year, I'm hoping to continue with a PhD program to study how exercise can influence cancer outcomes.
Very interesting. Are you planning on continuing at the University of Arkansas?
No, I'm actually going to apply to the University of Utah.
Mhm.
Still working on that application that's due in about 8 days. So we will be working under pressure, but pressure forms diamonds. Um,
True.
and yeah, so Arkansas didn't quite have the right program for me. Some of the professors weren't studying exactly what I wanted to. And so for grad school, it's important to find that person that is doing research on the things you are interested in.
Mhm.
And so I found that person at Utah. But I did get an offer to stay at Arkansas, and it was very, very tempting to
Mhm.
take it. But instead, I got to come to the Czech Republic. So I think that was a pretty good trade-off.
Well, good luck to you, okay?
Yeah, well, thank you, thank you. So again, here are the requirements that you can take a look at later. They'll be relatively similar to all the other ones that you've seen before.
Oh,
and
it's
should
great
be.
that they accept CAE exams, the Cambridge exams, because,
Oh yeah.
we tend to do those like SE and CAE more than the SAT exams and TOEFL.
Hmm.
So this is great to see that you can have the CAE exam. Great.
Yeah, so there's another reason why this university is, the cream of the crop here. And I thought it'd be nice to also talk about my experience at Arkansas. Um, as you, we'll just go picture by picture here. I'll get my handy dandy laser pointer back. So this picture in the top right, um, we love our sports at Arkansas. I promise you there is more than just sports in college, but in American college at least. But we did have really good basketball, and our football team is getting better. They weren't the best, but
Mhm.
they were getting better. And
Mhm.
so it's super fun to go to these packed out games. You'd have like 20,000 people in this basketball stadium and then about 75,000 in this football stadium.
Wow.
And it's game days were always fun. There's always excitement on campus. There's always an excitement around the town. You could feel the energy in the air. So it was always fun to go to those games, and especially when we were playing against a rival team, there'd always be even more energy, and tons of people from the community would come out, and you'd see just a collectiveness that you don't see, I think, in larger cities. So the small town feel of Fayetteville, it's grown a lot since I got there, but it's about 80,000, 90,000 people, which I know again sounds like a lot, but
Mhm.
it's very spread out, and you can still get out of the city within 10 minutes, 15 minutes, by bike and be in like farmland. So that's what was my favorite part too, is you were in the city that had everything you needed, but wasn't too big.
And my
Um,
question would be, because being an international student, I would have to fly in. So,
True.
is there any airport, that is convenient for, flying from the Czech Republic, potentially Austria or Germany?
Mm. Well, I don't know if any direct flights exist. I
Mhm.
do know that no direct flights exist. But you can certainly fly to Bentonville Airport,
Mhm.
which is about 25 minutes away from the university.
Mhm.
And it's a tiny, tiny little airport, like
Mhm.
only four gates at the airport, or maybe five or six. So
Mhm.
very small, but it connects to any major airport in the area.
Mhm.
So I'm sure you would fly to like Dallas or Atlanta or some big city like that, and then to Bentonville. So
It's
yes,
actually
you
great,
certainly can.
because I would love to fly to Dallas and have like 2 days in Dallas and then fly to Arkansas. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that definitely works. I know they have a direct flight between the two cities.
Mhm.
There are a lot of Texas people who go to our school, so
Mhm.
I'm sure they love that flight.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so this middle picture here on the left, that was the club soccer team I was on. So you have like
Thanks.
different levels. You have like Division 1, where
Mhm.
you play against other schools and you might be on scholarship.
Mhm.
Then you have like club level, which you still play against other schools, but there's no scholarships involved, and you pay for all the travel and things like that, mostly yourself. Um, and it's still fun though, because we got to travel to a couple different states to play in tournaments, and it's fun to go on a road trip with some of the other guys on the team.
Mhm.
And they do have club teams for both men and women, so for most sports too. So if you're into sports, there is certainly a club team there for you.
Mhm.
But there's also the last level is intramural. So you play against people at your school. So if you don't want to travel to different states or pay money to play for free, you can play against people at the school. And with a school so big, there's always lots of teams and things to join.
Mhm.
Um, and like I said, we are more than just sports. So I put this picture on here in the bottom because that's from my anatomy class. So part
Mhm.
of my degree, we take physiology and anatomy.
Mhm.
And um, that was one of the hardest classes I've ever taken.
Mhm.
Just so much content just poured on every single week of new words and like directional terms to learn and all these different little marks on the bones and organs. And it was definitely a lot, but um, it's one of those things you're glad you got through it and don't really want to do it again. But very, very challenging course. And this picture here on next to it is from the research group I was a part of,
Mhm.
which is actually different than the research I did in the top right corner. So being a big university like this, we're called what's an R1, or we are called, we're what's called an R1 university,
Mhm.
which means that we have very high research activity. So
Mhm.
if you're into research and kind of exploring topics really specifically, you can certainly find a research group that interests you, not only just in exercise science, but every field has research, physics, chemistry, um, biology, all the different sciences, and even of course the humanities and the arts, like the sociology and the psychology and music has research going on too. And
Mhm.
anyone who is a professor does research. So
Mhm.
there's lots of people who have many different interests. That's fun to kind of delve into.
Mhm.
And so our group was focused on how can exercise impact people who are at risk of Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
So we looked at a lot of different things, and doing a body scan was one of the things we looked at.
Mhm.
And then another big advantage of a big school is they have lots of money for people to do research and to do things they're interested in. So I got money actually to go do research in Senegal
Mhm.
on how active are kids during recess. And so this was me presenting that research at a conference. Gosh, it was actually still
Is
this year. It
is
was it
that
was back
you
in,
on the picture?
huh?
Is that you really?
Yeah, that's really me.
Really? I
Mhm.
wouldn't have guessed that. Okay, that's really cool.
Um, so yes, this was just in March or maybe February that we had this conference. Um, and then this was in the centers, me at graduation. So I graduated in December of last year,
Mhm.
which a December graduation is great because you finish early. So I finished in 3.5 years instead
Mhm.
of 4. But the only problem with that is it's really cold at graduation. Um, so it was not a very fun day to be outside and take pictures. It was, let's take one picture and get back to the car.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and okay, one more sports thing. We also had a cycling team, and so I joined that the last semester
Mhm.
I was there, and we had fun traveling to different places and competing against other schools. But again, this was a club sport, so um, it wasn't like something you get a scholarship for. It's just for fun,
Mhm.
but at a more competitive level.
Mhm.
Um, But yeah, that's kind of my Arkansas experience. I really do love this state. Like I said, it's Arkansas is a hidden gem. I like to think of it as the Czech Republic of the US, where not many people talk about it. Some people don't even travel to it,
Mhm.
but there are so many beautiful things outside, some really nice people, um, and some great communities there. So if you want to know more about any of these universities, I have the links for all the different home pages
Mhm.
and then also the international admissions page. So if you ever need to know more information, you can certainly kind of dig around in these different websites.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Charlie. Thank you. It was like, especially in the beginning, those trips, that you took us to online, to the countryside and the nature. It looked beautiful. So I'm sold a little bit. It's really gorgeous. And yeah, guys, if you have any questions regarding the major Charlie studied or regarding Arkansas in general, please feel free to type them underneath the live stream, or you can definitely send me an email or reach out through social media under Education USA Czech. Okay. So thank you so much, Charlie, for sharing all these resources and information. And I hope that more Czech students will go study to Arkansas now when they know it's not pronounced Arkansas. As
That's right.
so yeah, thank you. And yeah, is that the last slide, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Well, there's
So
your site.
oh yeah, so this is where you can reach us. So if you have any following questions, feel free to send us an email or a message, and we'll be happy to answer it. So thank you so much for joining today. Thank you, Charlie, and
Yeah.
see you
Thank you for having
later.
me.